Let's go!
There are several other things that I would prefer to talk about. That's the overall quote-unquote like state of fighting games. We definitely got to talk about this shit. And I would like to make some astute observations just because in my space, I've had to be around a very large majority of fighting game communities from casual to competitive over the past like 15 years of my life and see what they think and respond with what their grievances are, what's good, what's bad, like all that kind of stuff, right? There's a lot of turmoil in the modern fighting game space, and it's really difficult to take the entirety of it, so it's best we just like focus. So let's just focus on several things that have gone down over the past 2-ish weeks, and we'll just like boil it down, or things coming to a head, you know, that kind of stuff. So let's talk about the elephant in the room. So that's Tekken 8, that's Street Fighter 6, that's also Fatal Fury, a game that's not even out yet. Okay, let's be real. Let's also put in MK1 because MK1 I think is a much better contrast / representation of what is going on and the comparison of what's going on to all of them. What I'm gonna do is we are gonna dig deep now. We're gonna dig deep into our psyche, into our personal feelings about what's going on with fighting games. And we're going to pull out the deepest, darkest, most negative, gut-wrenching reactions about every single one and compare them to every single one to figure out which one feels the worst. Which thing is going to actually make us feel the worst? Actually, I'm not doing that. I'm going to provide maybe a slightly more interesting take. The issues that are happening with all these fighting games almost have nothing to do with each other. And they are all severely unique things for every game, and we're sitting at a unique period of time right now where all of this stuff sort of came to a head at the same point or is happening in the same week. So let's just like break it down. Obvious thing, Tekken 8. Okay, yeah, we get what's going on. There's an issue with the current game's balance, a commitment to the absolute insanity that was the first season of Tekken 8. All things considered, Tekken 8 was already a game that like allowed you to explore and do some pretty crazy stuff with those characters and things, and now they just want to like extend that to a way higher degree that is starting to piss people off. So yeah, we all know kind of the discourse behind Tekken 8, and it's the fact that in my eyes the developers chose to change way too much in the direction that we were not anticipating, much less they said. So that's what's going on with Tekken 8. It's like, okay, yeah, they changed a lot, but they did it in the opposite way that we all thought they were going to do, and now it's leaning in a direction that is kind of scary and weird if this is the future of the game. Okay, sure, I get you. I'm with you. I completely agree. Let's talk about Street Fighter 6. Street Fighter 6 has almost the complete exact problem. Street Fighter 6 is a game that has been out for almost 2 years, and the only thing that has had adjustment to its core mechanical systems is the fact that Drive Rush went from being a forward input to 2 buttons, right? Forward to 2 buttons. This game is getting close to like 24 months of existence, and the way you play the game pretty much has almost not changed at all. Yeah, reversals, also like being able to do wake up reversals and stuff. The mechanic is still there. The way you change it is like slightly different, right? They made it so that you can't really screw up a drive reversal like on wake up. So most of those things are still functionally the same game that you have been playing for like the past. Here's what's crazy. It might even go all the way back to the old betas. I got a fuzz in my hair. The game has been no shit. The same game. We're just adding characters. New characters. Not really any big changes, just new characters. How is that bad? Is it fun? Why change it? Great question. It is fun. Why change it? Because anything, if you play the exact same thing for too long, is going to get stale. Especially if it's like a headliner game like a Street Fighter. Street Fighter 5 went through way more changes significantly quicker in the time frame it had, much less Street Fighter 4 also went through way more changes significantly quicker. Street Fighter 3 also went through way more changes significantly quicker because within 2 years after new generation was released, we were already at Third Strike. Right now, Street Fighter 6 is getting like a little stale, and what's really good in the game is obviously really good. There's some very interesting community comparisons of like, you know, Tekken 8 to Street Fighter at the moment, and to me, it's like They are the exact opposite of a problem. You got one game that people have been playing so long that they're asking for a shakeup in some way, and you got another game that people have not been playing for that long, has already gone through several micro shakeups on the way to its season 2, and by the time season 2 happened, they were like, brah, they just like kicked the door down, and they're like, oh, we're just changing everything in a weird direction. No, these are not the same problem, my dude. I get it. All fighting games in their next iterations will get quote unquote easier to play for casual players. That goes all the way back to the 90s. This is not a new thing, but still, functionally speaking, we have a couple of games that do give you a lot more tools to work with, a lot more stuff to work with. So this is very different than the casualization of fighting games in the mid 2010s, where the whole goal to casualize fighting games was just to take things away and just make it simpler. There was a way for you to give like characters a bunch of tools and shit and a bunch of things to work with, and it could be really fun for casuals, and the high level might have issues for it, but the high level still is really good, and they still are the conquering reigning champions. You know what game that is called, chat? It's called Tekken 8 Season 1. So I think Season 1, as much as it needed refinement, had a pretty good balance of that stuff. What we wanted was that refinement, and now what people are asking for in Street Fighter is a quote-unquote refinement. Just for comparison's sake, we know these are two very different issues between these games right now. If Street Fighter 6 got a Tekken 8 Season 2 adjustment, Street Fighter 6 throw loops would work everywhere, not just the corner. You could now get burned out without your back hitting the wall. Drive Rush costs less. The majority of moves on the majority of characters now leave you plus on block. Some people do not understand how significant of a change the Tekken 8 Season 2 patch was. It is significantly different. It is terrifying. Air drive impact, air drive rush, you know, like you would have to hold a block string in Street Fighter like you're playing Dragon Ball Fighters. How about this? Parrying would also take away gray health. That's what the next season of Street Fighter would do. If this was a Tekken 8 patch, next season of Street Fighter, parrying takes away gray health, just in general. Two very different issues, okay? So there's two games. We have another game, Fatal Fury, a game that's not even out yet. This game's problem is specifically guest characters and their inclusion of said guest characters. For a while, it was the game's online functionality throughout that first beta, and like, oh my god, they've learned nothing about how to make an online fighting game since the first one. Please, no, that was mostly alleviated in the second beta. Most of the issues that were there were sort of alleviated, so that was like, okay, you know, they got it. But now they have guest characters taking the places in the launch roster of many other characters that longtime fans would want. So in a similar way, right now, the legacy fans of Tekken are being like hurt. And right now, also in a similar way, the legacy fans of SNK are being hurt. There's a new priority for how things work. Even though you love these things from the previous game, well, you can maybe just wait for that while we try to sell this product, you know what I mean? These are very different things, but in the same result, the same thing is happening. We're getting two hardcore fan bases that feel like they're being somewhat disrespected in some way. But again, these are very different problems. Like the inclusion of these real lifers in SNK is nothing like what's happening to Street Fighter, which clearly needs a shakeup in its mechanics, which is nothing like Tekken, which shook up its mechanics way too much in a direction that nobody wanted. We got three different problems here. And let's take the last one, Mortal Kombat 1. The last big boy. And for the majority of people that are watching this, you don't care about how Mortal Kombat plays as a video game. You just don't. It's never been a priority. It's never been the most important thing about the game, because mostly the folks that engage with NRS and last Mortal Kombat games are there for the content. And to be real, they were justified as shit, bro. The content in MK1 was lacking, and it still is lacking as we move like 2 or getting close to 2 years after the game has been out. So yeah, there's still many things that are like, this should not be a problem. It still is, even when it comes to online functionality. But many of the things that made Injustice 2 great and sold people on MK11 were not the things that were present, and a lot of people didn't like the story mode, so just screw that game, I'm out, you know? But I'm here to tell you that MK1 is in the best space it ever has been right now. As a video game, as a game that you can play, and almost the entirety of the NRS community has echoed this, the same people that were harking on this game being absolute ass trash for the last year and a half, and they're just livid that this is the only thing they can do, it's the only thing they can play. They've gotten to a point where MK1 is actually pretty fun. Watching competitive MK1 is actually pretty fun. At this point, the future of that game is sort of left in turmoil. We don't know where the hell it's gonna go, but But my dude, Mortal Kombat 1 is such a better game than it was like a year ago, such a better game than it was 6 months ago. It's way more interesting to watch, and it's way more interesting to engage with as a video game, but that's only if you enjoy the gameplay. And if you don't just enjoy the gameplay, then my dude, you're not going to find those things that were missing from launch. So I understand it's not perfect. This is another completely different issue that every single one of these games is going through. I will say there's an overall quote unquote narrative that the bigger problem with all fighting games right now is the casualization of fighting games. And I do agree to a certain point. Making big guesses constantly at high level may not be the most engaging way to like play a fighting game. The goal of like high level fighting games like back then was to pretty much get to that 50-50 situation, which took a bit of effort, and then you get a true 50-50. Nowadays, it's like 50-50. Who gives a shit, man? Dude, I deal with that shit all the time. So to be like, oh, the gameplay of Tekken 8's just like MKX, that's not true. Maybe for the first like few months of that game, sure. But still, I agree that I don't think the highest level of fighting games should just be boiling down to a guess. 4 to 5 to 6 times per round, boiling down to guesses that will mean the game for you. I don't think that's particularly satisfying. And yeah, I do think that there is room for refinement. They literally changed that in Mortal Kombat X as the game went on. What I'm trying to communicate here is that the casualization is the modern narrative of like why fighting games suck. And I do agree to a certain point about at another point, these games don't inherently suck. Tekken 8 was pretty fun, man. Like for the majority of that first season, they were fixing things and it was getting better and they were toning down the bullshit until they decided to do an initial D Akina downhill U-turn. But in the same way, Street Fighter 6 was a system that most people really liked. In fact, Street Fighter 6 has been a game that has been this like, whoa, yeah, oh, no, whoa, yeah, oh, no, whoa, yeah. And now we're on this little like downward spiral. This game's the best. This game sucks. This game's the best. This game sucks. Like that has been what has been going on for the past near 2 years of Street Fighter. We have Mortal Kombat 1, which has gone from this thing to this game sucks. This game sucks. And now it's actually kind of good. Now it's actually sort of fun. Fatal Fury isn't even out yet. I can't even like harshly judge that situation because I'm just throwing it in here as comparison, but we can't even judge Fatal Fury. It's not actually out yet. It's just weird with all the stuff that's happening. The message of this story is that none of these things are the same. They may seem like they're the same if you like try to wrap everything around the casualization of fighting games is ruining everything. It's like, my dude, Tekken 8 is the most uncasual friendly. I don't know what to I don't know what I'm talking. Tekken 8 is like the most casually unfriendly Tekken game in season 1 that I think I've ever played. And it took a turn, you know, that turn definitely shifted, but season 1 was not particularly like this game's just great for casuals. My dude, your ass got stomped by legacy skill, and then you had to deal with all these other characters that were like 3 times the character when they're in heat mode, and then you have Street Fighter, which is not a game that is just inherently super easy to just pick up and be a god at. Like, no, dude, Street Fighter 6 is so mechanically dense that the majority of people that don't play fighting games will not be getting those mechanics in their head or functioning the way they want them to for like months. Like it'll take you so long to get out of gold or some shit. So to be real, these games by their intrinsic design are not super casual friendly. We have seen fighting games that were mega casual friendly, and they were not fun games, dude. I don't even want to call names. I don't even want to say anything, but we know what happened over the past 10 years and how it had an impact on just like the way the game looks and how interesting is the engagements and stuff. And it just wasn't. It was just like, dude, what are we looking at? This game is not fun. The first few minutes of you playing it, you're like, this is not fun. So to me, there is at least the games we have right now. This is the positive max kicking in. We have something that at its core does have a lot of enjoyment, but needs refining. Tekken 8 needs refinement in the other direction. Street Fighter needs refinement in the opposite direction. But to be real, again, if Street Fighter 6 got a refinement the same way that Tekken did, if they just enhance all the really annoying shit, we're gonna make Drive Rush twice as fast. We're gonna make it so that you can throw loop anywhere on the screen. We're gonna make it so that you get burned out anywhere on the screen. No corner needed anymore. Yeah, people would be friggin' pissed. That would be friggin' stupid. Why would they do that? I don't know why they did it in Tekken. So anyway, all I'm trying to say is these problems aren't related to each other. And the good news is that even though we're in sort of a dire spot right now with some of these games and a big unknown known one with Fatal Fury and the potential of Mortal Kombat, we're in a spot where things can get changed. Things can go through minor refinements and actually have them turn out in a positive in some way in like a 6-month time frame, if not a little bit less. I think it's been pretty clear that if you totally commit to just changing the spirit of your game in some way, then a lot of people are going to be upset, which is what happened with Tekken. And if you also don't commit to changing your game at all, you're going to run into a Street Fighter situation where people are just sick of seeing the exact same, like sort of like 1 out of 3 RPS situation over and over and over again. You know, I get it. I completely understand. To me, I don't think the casualization of all this stuff is inherently the problem, because these games aren't intrinsically casual friendly. It does leave me hope that devs now pretty sure they understand. I'm pretty sure they get it. And I am personally looking forward to, as much as I don't want to play Tekken as much as I wanted to, the game is still fun to a degree until like the really annoying shit happens. And Street Fighter has still been a fun game that I could jump back in and play and relearn and reacclimate and sort of come across like, yeah, dude, this is really engaging. But I could see how at a highest level, yeah, I can see how if you're only playing this game all the time, you just have to make those choices like so frequently, and they have to be the right ones, you know? That could be a little frustrating of just like, I had to make the right call, you know? Ugh. This isn't nearly as bad as we think it is. This isn't the end of fighting games in general. In fact, there is a growing point that's happening right now. When fighting games were actually at their best potentially like a year ago, where it felt like, man, this can't get any better, right? This is just so crazy. This is just so cool. There's a little bit of a growth period happening at the moment in the growth of now a much more thriving fighting game market. And it feels like maybe, just maybe, like some stuff is happening on an executive level because the market is getting bigger, the games are getting larger. Some like outside factors might be coming in and messing shit up, so we don't know. We'll find out. There are new fighting games on the horizon. Fatal Fury isn't even out. 2XKO still is coming out. All I'm saying is I would like to have faith in the dopeness of fighting games. And I would like to have faith that we can get games that don't all require you to make just big guesses all the time, and the whole game just boils down to 5 or 6 big guesses per round. Like that doesn't feel necessarily great. I think we can get there. And to be real, my prediction is that Street Fighter is going to go through that change. I think it's going to be an evolved game that will go through that change, and I'm going to give Capcom the benefit of the doubt that they know this. And when we do eventually get a Season 2 announcement, possibly in the next couple months, we might see some stuff that really pushes the game forward.